And I will own the fact that there is in our bylaws that we should have officially had an election already, and I apologize that we haven't officially done so. I think this is still the let's get some more momentum if anybody else wants to put their name forth. However, at the end of this, I will point out who's currently the slate. And if this body was so inclined, I suppose we could just accept that slate and figure it out beyond. But right now, your current Rotary Board, our past president is Kelsey. I'm our current president, Nick Oyen. Our president-elect is Rich Holland. Kevin O'Kelly is vice president. Maintaining and retaining secretary duties is Kathy Chandler, and same for treasurer with Doug. Those two, yes, regularly deserve an awful lot of gratitude. You'll notice when I talk about the different positions in a second, which ones actually have the most important details on them. And our current board members, and then, so our bylaws do say 3 board members on top of. Are Chuck Lubers, Bart Hannes, I don't think I saw Bart come in today, and then Dan Van Pearson. So a thing I wanted to present, and I think many of you have held many of these titles before, so it might be just a great opportunity to nod along, or correct me if I misrepresent something, but some of you haven't. So I want to first talk about the different positions that are on the board. And this is the Nick Oyen understanding, having observed with some vetting from the board members to assure I didn't say something flippantly wrong, but again, this may not be perfectly accurate. So as president, my position tends to include presiding over the weekly Rotary meetings, drafting the monthly board meeting agendas, and leading those board meetings as well. Presiding as the lead executive, including Representative Vermillion Rotary at various district and regional events, and being a point of contact for greater Rotary communications. So I often will get something from the district. I say thank you very much when they've CC'd somebody who's more in tune, like, say, Kathy, on those communications as well. But that would be a thing that I tend to do as president. The past president, so what I'll be graduating into and what Kelsey does presently, is to provide guidance to that current executive team and even potentially help do what I'm doing now and preside over our regular meetings. The president-elect's typical roles, so we do have a year of following, but from vice president to president-elect to president. Our president-elect typical roles are fill in as needed in the absence of the president. You've gotten to see Rich step up to the plate many times for me since July. And then attend leadership training opportunities provided by Rotary. And he's even mentioned a few times about, I think, PETS is the right answer, where he's already had a chance to attend those things. And then the vice president tends to then serve in the absence of both of us. There's also some trainings for the vice president that then trickles into the president-elect opportunities. The real active members, and these are the places where I always want to encourage and plant some seeds of opportunity, are the treasurer and the secretary roles. And I say that because we've had 2 very dedicated members who show no sign of going anywhere or doing anything, but we want to be very honoring of them and know that these are important roles that others should be looking to potentially fill someday. And that treasurer role, a generally accurate description, is record and complete all the financial transactions on behalf of the board. In conjunction with the executive team, create an annual budget, report monthly on all Vermillion Rotary financials to the board, that should include, and then facilitate completion of annual financial reports and filings. So Doug does a great job when it's tax time. He helps take care of that. When we need to get our reports up to the district about how our financials are going, Doug's their guy, and he's right on top of those things for us. The secretary role includes recording attendance at our weekly meetings, but it's also maintaining all the records pertaining to our Rotary and our Rotarians. It helps facilitate any orderings of materials. When I get a chance to to shine and say, new member, and here's that badge, and thanks so much for being here. I am only the face, and Kathy has done all the work to assure that we've had those things to be able to do that with that new member. She also takes care of the monthly board meeting minutes, and then the quarterly billings. She helps facilitate all of that information and making sure that's coming and going. And if you haven't thanked or recognized Kathy for her efforts or Doug for his efforts, you should make sure to do that on a regular basis. Yeah, we can do that. I think that's fair. You're supposed to create positions not because of the people in them, but because of what the position needs to be. But the people in them sure make these positions what they are. So thank you both for what you do. And then generally for all board members, including those other three positions, the expectations are to attend and actively participate in those monthly board meetings as often as you're able. Attend and support all Vermillion Rotary events, again, as able. This is me maybe being overly articulate. Review, discern, and decide on highly important Rotary matters, including the approval of membership. So at any meeting, if we have a membership application, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that application and that person, and we'll come to a consensus on if they're a right fit for our organization. Approve of sponsorship applications. So when somebody sends a grant request into Vermillion Rotary, or we even have those ongoing things that we support, we discuss those things. That's not a blank opportunity. Just because you've asked before, we're going to send you a check again. We as a board are going to assure that it's still in line with our mission and function. And then doing the planning and oversight of special events and functions. And you'll see a little later, not necessarily so much of the leadership of, depending on the situation, but at least being aware of those things. And then generally promote and represent well the Vermillion Rotary in our community. A typical board meeting is after our regular meeting on the second Wednesday of every month. The group is often flexible if we need to do different, but it's nice to be predictable, so that's what we try and plan and be honoring of. And those usually last only an hour. Every time we review financial reports, the secretary's report, and then we have various board business that we'll review as well. There's communications that happen on the side, but actual board functions really just happen within that hour. And some of that regular business, like I mentioned before, is new member applications, different funding requests, and those special events. So some of the programs, as you're serving as a board member, that you get to help decide upon, you get to help make an impact for on behalf of Rotary, are things like our bike helmets for elementary students. We have a very dedicated Rotarian, Dr. Yelverton, who keeps that going, and we get to every year talk about how great it is and the fact that we want to keep supporting it and sponsoring it. The Vermillion High School scholarships, funding for things like Boys and Girls State and Vermillion High School Volunteer Day. That is just a very short list of examples of the things that we fund on an ongoing basis, and you as a board get to hear more about as those things come back up. Examples of other special projects that we often talk about are the annual Rotary Duck Race, things like the D-Day Parade participation, check presentations. That's something that we did more of before, and the board has recognized that we want to do more of again and do a better job of really connecting with our community in that way. And that's part of the excitement of being the leader of this group, is this group does so darn much, and you get to be the face and the connection in the community for that. So keep listening. Those of you home watching online, where's my camera? You should be listening to this too. We want you to be a part of the board so you can show Vermillion again and again what Rotary does and is for this community. So my last couple slides, one is a proposed slate potentially for our upcoming board. So that I would transition up to past president. Our president then would be Rich Holland. Our president-elect would become Kevin O'Kelly. That vice president position, we haven't quite had the hand raised yet to want to jump into the vice president position. But in a meeting right before our meeting, I also self-identified that my first functioning on a Rotary Board meeting was actually becoming the vice president. So you don't necessarily have to be a board member first. You are welcome to raise your hand, and we'd happily take you into the executive team and train you up into what that means. Both Kathy and Doug have graciously offered themselves forward to be on the ticket for the secretary and treasurer positions respectively. And then our other board member positions will also remain the same, with Bart, Dan, and Chuck coming back on. Why did I lose sight of Chuck all of a sudden? And then we have had one indicated interest as board member, Tim Shorn, to fill an opening. So we kind of have, the openings VP, we kind of have a person who could come in to the VP opportunity directly if they were so inclined, who have put their name forward. So I've included them in the slate as a board member. So this is our group today. Any questions or thoughts about that group today? Yes, sir.
Is it appropriate to elect the people that we have named for the TBD will be filled in later?
I think so. I'll also own the fact that I am not well versed in our bylaws, but in my looking through our bylaws, I saw nothing that precluded it from happening exactly that way.
Mr. President, I move nominations to each of the unanimous ballot be cast for the slate.
That is sure a motion worth entertaining. Do we have a second for that motion? So the motion was nominations cease, and we unanimous vote on that slate, right? And we have a second from Ross for that motion. Any further discussion? Okay, so all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Well, there you go. So there's your 2023 Vermillion Board. Look at that, Tim. Wasn't even contested. Too late now. You can't change your mind. It's up in public. You all voted on it. Yes, sir.
Mr. President, I stand with a question. Please. On your list of officers, you're omitting one that are elected by the year.
Please fill me in.
The bylaws have an officer called a sergeant at arms that's elected for a year. You don't have it listed.
I don't. Are you volunteering for the? Okay, no, I would agree that that's an omission. Yes, Doug.
Doing is rotating that position amongst several people. So there's usually a sergeant at arms at every meeting.
Yes. So maybe I'll open this opportunity up for anybody here today. Is anyone interested in putting their name forward to self-nominate as the elected position as Sergeant at Arms for July 22 through June 23? And is that a motion? Now so I'm looking at the bylaws that I pulled off of our site that were amended in 19. The board, as listed in here, the governing body of this club shall be the board of directors consisting of 9 members of this club, including 3 directors elected in accordance with Article 3, Section 1 of these bylaws: the president-elect, the vice president, the secretary, the treasurer, and the immediate past president. Did we remove it? Does anybody know if I'm trying to find where in the bylaws it, or did that go away at some point? Whoop. Yeah, I don't see Sergeant at Arms listed in Article 4, which is the duties of officers. I wonder if that got removed. Does anybody know? Okay. Right. I'll take it away as an action item to at least get that answer, if that's been pulled. But I think 2 good notes to take out of that is we have been winging it, and we haven't been very successful in having a sergeant at arms the last few meetings. So we'll push a little bit harder to get that process back up and running. Okay. Yeah, I'll get confirmation of that, and I'll report back. All right. So then my only other slide is just promotion of participation. You know, one thing that's come up a lot in our last several board meetings is membership, and Assistant Governor, right? Sister Governor Shorn even chatted with us a little bit about that right before this meeting. And membership is the issue. Well, there's lots of issues, but it's a pretty notable issue that's facing all Rotary, and our group too. And I don't think to quite the degree it's affecting the other Rotaries. We are doing okay retaining members. But that is an opportunity we've all thought on this board over the last few months needs more attention. So this is me just planting the seed. You'll be hearing more ideas and more conversations from the board. I know Kevin O'Kelly was hoping to be here today to talk a little bit more about some efforts we want to start putting forward, so he'll be here next week. And there are conversations going on about what can we do? What can we do differently? How can we change? How can we improve? So if anybody has any other thoughts, please do share those. But a real quick list of other ways to participate in Rotary beyond just attending meetings but not being part of the board would be that grant writing process. You know, Huck dubbed me grant commander at some point, and I don't know if he ever had the authority to do that, but I will always take assistance with any kind of grant writing opportunities on behalf of Vermillion Rotary. Public image and communications, Chuck helps lead that a lot, so he would be a great person to chat with. Membership, the Scholarship Review Board, I think, Huck, that's a thing that you're often involved in, right? And Kathy's involved in. Duck race volunteers, I'm doing my best to lead that this year in a little bit more organized way than we did last year, but that's a group that we can always use assistance. And then when it comes to parade participation, helping recruit presenters, you know, we have 2 gentlemen who are doing fantastically, Tim and Patrick, if you didn't know that. Everybody that's here every time, these 2 have recruited and brought in for us. So yeah, I mean, round of applause for that, for goodness sakes. But if you know somebody, or if you can help recruit somebody, chat with those gentlemen and help them get them here. Was that a, yes, sir? Our current membership, I don't think we have it, what's that? Our peak was in the low 80s, and at the kind of onslaught of COVID, we were mid-60s at that point and lost quickly, and now for the last 6 months we've been maintaining, but that's because we've had a number of new members join, even though we've lost a few. So I think we've had 4 new members join this Rotary year, and we're still at even for the Rotary year at this point. Any other questions? Okay. Tim, I apologize. I took more of your time than I said I was going to. Okay. What's He's a much better presenter than I am. Okay, so our presentation today will actually be our new assistant governor. And I had a snarky comment about what my introduction was going to be, and I won't do that to you, Tim. But I will say, fellow Rotarian is going to talk to us a bit today about Shelterbox and membership. So I'll turn it over to Assistant Governor Tim Short.
And it's so nice to return to my roots right here in Vermillion. Not that I've ever left them, but I am going to Scotland next week. Unfortunately, not Glasgow, but whatever Bonham County or whatever that is. So, although it'll be fun because I know a few of the Rotary members over there. The president is a former student of mine. Past president is my former band director at Mount Marty. So the ties run deep. One of the projects that District 5610 has been working with more of late, and no thanks to me because I fell off the map during COVID as the Shelterbox ambassador, is Shelterbox. During the recent 5610 district meeting in Deadwood, one of our past district governors issued a challenge, and he put forward $3,000 if we could raise an equal amount in happy dollars, as I've now learned they're called, during the course of the conference. And we surpassed that and presented Shelterbox with a couple of checks worth about $6,400 earlier this month. I take just a little bit of credit because I turned it into a USD SDSU contest. And oh gosh, now I forgot his name, but much to his chagrin, we won. And I have a few USD grads who are probably after me because I kept throwing them under the bus, causing them to have to lead the donation cause each time. But we won, and we know it. So we hear a lot in the news of late of various natural disasters. We know that there was an earthquake in Haiti. There was a couple of events in Indonesia. And what we see is a significant number of people losing everything. Losing their house, losing their belongings. We saw it in Colorado recently as well. One of the differences between what we saw in Colorado and what we see in Haiti is that in Haiti, there is no one there to step in. There is no one there to go that last mile to provide the shelter that is necessary, to give them an opportunity to have pure, clean water, cooking utensils, and that's what Shelterbox sets out to do. Shelterbox is there to give them temporary shelter until a more permanent response can be planned. And what you see here is the Shelterbox tent. And everything that you need, I'm kind of winging it now so that we don't run over time, everything you need for survival is found in a box about this big, which is darn heavy though. It's amazing how they can get so much in one box. And it is delivered where needed. And I happen to have said box in my garage, but the last person who used it couldn't get it repacked. So whoever did the packing knew what they were doing. Clearly, Steve Sikorsky and I do not. So at some point, though, I will bring parts of it each time so that you can see what is included in the box, because it is a remarkable, I didn't realize that was there.
We believe that with your help, we can build a world where no family is left without shelter. The natural
the first time the video worked for me, so I was caught off guard. But you saw the boxes that were there. Shelterbox was started by a local Rotary Club in England about 100 years ago. And it has grown now to serve people in need worldwide. And we have a map shortly, but as of 2021, 13 million people around the world were displaced. One of the things that Shelterbox talks about is that it is willing to go that literal and proverbial last mile to provide shelter to as many people of those 13 million who are dislocated as possible. Now, Shelterbox, for the most part, is built on small donations, and a lot of it from individual Rotary clubs. And at some point, I'm hoping that we can join, maybe with a group on campus, to provide the support for one such box. Each box is $1,000. And it provides the shelter, the water purification, blankets, sleeping mats, cooking utensils, light, everything that you need to survive. One of the things that Shelterbox did come to learn was that not every family or not every disaster required a cookie-cutter response. That at times, what was more necessary was cooking equipment or water containers, that perhaps they didn't need the tents. You can see they also provide children's activity packs. Maybe not every group is going to need that. So now they look more carefully to see what each crisis needs in response, knowing that they can always respond with a whole kit when necessary. The Luminaid solar light, I don't know if you were there at that point, Patrick. There was a certain USD professor at the Shelterbox booth at the district conference who could not figure out how to make the light work. Luckily, a nice man from Iowa State stepped in and demonstrated solar, light, light. And said USD professor is now an expert on that particular light. But when you look at the stuff that it includes, when I first started learning about it, I found it absolutely remarkable that you could provide so much for relatively little to ensure the survival of families or other displaced persons for, maybe not a long period of time, but certainly for the foreseeable future. And you can see it even provides tools. One of the reasons they have the tools is perhaps they already have a structure. What they need is an ability to help put a roof on that or to locate the tent over that. And so it provides the needs that the people might have to ensure that they will survive. You can see the tent. It will, maybe not horribly comfortably, but it will certainly meet the needs of a family to ensure that they are protected from the elements. You also know that in a lot of places, one of the greatest shortages is potable water. And so they have worked over the last probably 20 years to continue to improve the ability to provide clean water and to create water purification systems that are easy to use and durable. What they had found over time was that they had created a water purification system that was not necessarily easy to use, that was not able to be moved from place to place and ensure that the people who needed them were going to be able to utilize them. And so they've worked very hard to ensure that their water purification tools are workable. Also then, the shelter kits, simply a way to move beyond just the tent or to augment the tent with perhaps some remaining shelter that still exists. They depend a lot on not only Shelterbox employees, but also volunteers, members of Rotary, and people within the community to help set up and to distribute the Shelterbox items. you can see when they're responding to an emergency, Shelterbox is able to respond in a rather large presence. These are some of the volunteers, and you can see that those boxes are very portable, but it requires 2 people. One of the things that they have also been working on is to ensure that they can still get out and provide shelter during the times of COVID, or if there is a concern about other outbreaks, that Shelterbox doesn't have to just cease operations. You can see there's an organization, a Rotary from Arizona. Again, so much of what Shelterbox raises in the United States comes from local Rotary clubs or districts and through some matching grants. One of my hopes someday is to be able to go out with Shelterbox and deliver, and I'd better do it before my back gets any worse, or else it's not going to be much help. I want to thank those of you who were at the district meeting who helped to make the donations to Shelterbox so possible. And again, I'm hoping to challenge us by working with a group on campus to provide money for at least one of the boxes, and maybe more down the road, and I'll bring that up later. I just kind of sprung that on everyone now, but I'm not expecting any sort of commitment now. I want to get a student group involved first, because I think this is something that is tangible, that the students can see this is going to help. I am providing something that is truly going to reach an individual and help them. And then I hope to be able to come back to Rotary at that point and say, okay, we need just this much or something. So just to warn you. I am not going to talk about membership anymore. Nick talked about that, but it is one of the things that District 5610 is concerned about. They're holding static, but some clubs are more successful at holding members than others. We just watched the folding of a club in Minnesota because they simply did not have the members in Minneota. Some of those members are hoping to go to clubs nearby. And if any of you want to move to Ponca, Nebraska, we still don't have any clubs in northeastern Nebraska. And it strikes me that Ponca or South Sioux City would be ideal choices. Not that I'm trying to get rid of anyone, Ted, but you know, I think that you would just be a great, you know, seed planter. Oh, I know, and that's why we understand each other so well. So I just wanted to, I gave a more full presentation, good Lord, during COVID over Zoom, but I wanted to at least give a shortened version when we have the opportunity to have some of you in person. And with the, oh gosh, I've never spoken so quickly and so little in my life. Do you have questions about Shelterbox? So, Rand, I hope you're happy.
Thank you.
Okay. So do you have questions about Shelterbox?
Shelterbox,
Yeah.
for about membership, as I understand it, there's about 40 clubs in District 5610. Is that roughly the number?
Yes, I'm doing math in my head. That should be right about 40 to 50, yeah.
Yeah, and how does Vermillion rank in terms of numbers of members? Are we in the top 40, or the top 20? Or where?
I would say we're in the top 10. Vermillion is sometimes used as a bit of a model club. It is involved. It has a lot of success with projects. It's involved with the community. Its leadership is accountable and involved. So yeah, Vermillion is held up as, you know, a club that just does a pretty darn good job, and strong membership. You have larger memberships in, you know, maybe a Sioux City or a Sioux Falls club, but I would think that Vermillion is probably in the, very possibly the top 5 or 6. So, you know, we're always, oh, I forgot about those West River clubs, Rapid City, yeah. So downtown Sioux Falls and the downtown Rapid City clubs are pretty big. So, any other non-Shelterbox questions from Ted? All right. Well, thank you all. And, oh, there's the current deployments. You can see better than I can because, there we go. They have not put Indonesia yet on the map. That was just their most recent and probably largest current deployment. But you do see, if only I knew geography. Haiti is over there somewhere, but not necessarily marked. And that's one that we look to quite a bit because of the proximity to the U.S. Yep.
Tonga is another one that, I don't know if there's anything left of Tonga.
Oh, yeah, and, yeah, I haven't even seen anything yet in the materials, but my guess is Tonga will be popping up very soon. So, and that's providing they can actually get in there. So, but once they are there, they can pretty much get throughout the country. Oh, Ted, I thought you were going to ask me a question.
Well, I would have a Shelterbox question.
Yeah.
How is this done logistically? Are there depots of Shelterboxes around the world that are used as a source of supply?
I know of two, and there are probably more, one in England, and I think there is one, I want to say Arizona, but I can't, I hesitate to bet your paycheck on Arizona. But I think that's where we operate from the United States.
They can ship hundreds,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
thousands.
And it's funny, I think they don't actually take volunteers to pack the boxes because it's a science. And you want to make sure that everything gets in there, but they too take volunteers for other things. So. And with that, I will turn it back over to the president.